Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I'm James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me today, KCRA 3's Sean Cunningham. Sean, how are you?
I'm great. I'm missing some podcast candles though, and I'm here on location at KCRA 3. This is our.
It feels like you're between two ferns.
I know. I just need Zach Galifianakis here. Is it look okay? I don't know. I also want like a spinny chair where I can just spin, but I'm on a really uncomfortable bar stool. So.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. the lighting is good. That's all that matters.
Good.
Also joining us today is Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast. Brenden, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. I'm in Southern California. Was at the game yesterday. I know Sean was really pushing me to make it down here for preseason. He was talking to me about the value and trying to be able to make it down here. So I was sure to make the trip. I'm here till Sunday, and so yeah, doing well.
There's value to going to preseason games.
Sean was the one talking about this. Yeah,
he's being very facetious, especially that one. If for a minute it almost looked like it might pay off because, did you go to shoot around? Did you see Russ?
I did not shoot around. Russ was not available. No matter. Didn't get him pregame, postgame. Kind of saw him around and talked to different guys about Russ being there, but did not get to talk to Russ directly, and actually even works against my favor because Russ is now talking tomorrow and I will not be there, unfortunately.
See, look what you did. You screwed up. You messed up.
I did.
But you prioritized family, and that's important.
Yeah, there we go. Family.
That's right. Welcome into the Kings Beat podcast, everyone.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Sean.
Okay. Oh, what's happening?
Nothing.
Oh. I think I know.
Yeah.
I could be anywhere right now.
Could be anywhere.
Could be.
Well, everyone knows where I'm at. No one knows where Sean's at. He's clearly in the witness relocation program.
I just said where I was at.
Brenden, he looks like he's in like on the East Coast at a beach house, but one of those cold beach houses. You know what I mean?
I know.
Yeah, like a little Nantucket or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to talk about today. So welcome in again if you're joining us. Thanks for hopping on. We did an impromptu Saturday live show, just kind of the way the week has worked out with a Wednesday game. And I had a business thing on Thursday, Friday night, the Kings played. So here we are on Saturday. If you don't mind, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, do all that stuff. That would be greatly appreciated. I don't know if I can make the thumb. Oh, I did.
No.
Hell yeah. Made the thumbs up happen. I think I can also the peace sign gives something else.
I think we discovered it's a MacBook thing because these are FaceTime.
Do a middle finger. See what happens.
Oh, yeah. All right. For the audio side, James sure did it.
He went in.
I did it. I sure did it.
You can tell a lot about how somebody flips somebody off, by the way. I usually go one post. I'm not going to do it right here because I am in KCRA 3 company property, so don't want to do that. But, I go one post up. I don't do like James did. He went full on
one post
up
from
a fist. Sean's like the
no, not that. You gotta have like
more of like
a
thumb out guy.
Yeah.
He's flashing gang signs while it's happening.
But you can tell a lot about somebody that way.
All right, yeah, you can tell whether someone ever flips people off or not.
Oh. And if I'm in the car, I have
a gift.
What? You did?
Yeah, yesterday's game. They were giving them out a little bit, and it just made me think of you, actually.
Great.
Right here.
What is that?
It was Pride Night at the Lakers game.
I'm very prideful, and I'm a supporter.
I just grabbed this and thought it just was very Sean to me.
I feel like there's a backhanded something going on there.
No. I mean, I could see you wearing it.
I'm an ally. I will say too.
As am I.
By the way, the Warriors had one of the best bobbleheads I've ever seen, ever.
The Buddy and Jimmy one.
The Buddy Hield and Jimmy Butler dual press because of their bromance and buddy cop. Like I said, I want to see them be the next cast of True Detective. They gave those away last night. I'm hoping that I have one of those because that's fantastic.
All right, we're here for it. All right, let's jump into this. We got too much stuff to talk about today. First and foremost, we're going to be here for about an hour. Sean has strict time outs that he's got to leave by, which is fine. So we're going to be with you until about 5:15. But the Sacramento Kings have been. This is probably one of the craziest busy weeks they've ever had. We've got all kinds of things to go through. Let's just start with the big news of the day, and that is that Russell Westbrook will be announced officially. Well, he's already been announced officially, but he will be introduced to the media on Sunday as the newest member of the Sacramento Kings. This is a long time coming. It's something that most of us knew here, dating back all the way to the beginning of free agency, that the Kings were trying to clear out one of their guards to bring in Russ. But at the end of the day, I think they looked at what was happening in preseason, threw their hands up in the air and said, well, we can't do, we just need talent. Like, we need to figure something out. And so Russell Westbrook has been signed on a 1-year league minimum, non-guaranteed contract with the Sacramento Kings. Let's start with Brenden. Brenden, what are your thoughts? Russell Westbrook, Kings legend.
I mean, they clearly felt the need for a point guard this offseason, and Dennis Schröder very much fills that. But I think that it was easy to look at, hey, if Dennis goes down, what happens from there? And obviously you don't wish that to be the case, but anything can happen in the NBA. We've seen the Kings deal with a handful of injuries over these last couple games. And so I think Russ fills that spot, but more than anything fits the identity that I think Scott Perry is looking for. Not maybe so much as on court, but the off court identity, right? The work ethic that he wants them to have, the competitive spirit. And I think that Russ very much plays into that. I'm a little curious about what it may look like and whose minutes he may be taking in the process of the addition, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit here. But I think he's a guy that, like Nick Clifford is talking about, growing up watching Russell Westbrook and looking up to him. He had a UCLA jersey of Russell Westbrook. Like, I think that having this sort of mentor is very valuable for these young players, even if there is that other side of taking a little bit of minutes. So more than anything, I think fits that backup point guard spot that very much still seemed to be a void, and fits the identity that they are attempting to create with what it means to be a Sacramento King.
Sean?
Yeah, I mean, you saw the quote from Scott Perry in the press release. It'll be interesting to talk to Russ tomorrow. I actually saw him today. I just got back from FanFest, and as I tweeted in the video just a few minutes ago, Russ was all smiles. I mean, he looks like the happiest dude on the planet to be with some of these people on the team that he has a lot of familiarity with. There's a lot of former teammates. I mean, talk Domas, who was a rookie with him in Oklahoma City. You've got Schröder, a three-time teammate with him from both the Thunder and the Lakers. Malik Monk, obviously, with the Lakers. Doug McDermott, Dario Saric. I mean, there's all kinds of teammates on this, familiarity. He totally played the part at FanFest. I mean, he was just looked giddy. He was interacting with fans. I mean, there was all kinds of stuff going on out there. A good time had by all, by the way. Dylan Cardwell won the rookie show. If you didn't get the chance to see him sing karaoke, he did All I Want for Christmas. Very much played to the crowd. Very, very funny moment there. Probably the most memorable since Kyle Guy doing the dance moves out there. But on the court, I mean, you're obviously getting a future Hall of Famer, and I think in a weird way, I think it does help them endure the regular season somewhat. They clearly had concerns about point guard and playing guys out of position, or learning the system. I don't know that it's going to help them in the way that they want it to have the desired effect. I mean, he will be 37 next month, but I said it. We've talked about it. It seems like as if he has been a member of the Kings for the past month or so, this entire offseason, because he played well in Denver. Denver goes to the Western Conference Finals. He played well with Jokic. I mean, there were positives and negatives. Granted, Michael Malone got fired almost because maybe he was playing Russ too much and some of the impact that he had there, especially in the early going. But it's going to be very, very fun to cover the Kings, I feel, in terms of just making them somewhat interesting from a journalistic standpoint. It's going to be eerily familiar to what Vince Carter was here, but also eerily familiar. Like, people are thinking, I mean, Scott even mentioned he's going to come in, he's going to be able to, help establish an identity. They're hoping he rubs off on some of these young rookies. But make no mistake, man, he's not here to babysit. That dude's going to go for dudes' jobs. And if they're not ready to tackle, this guy's never – he's been able to lead by example in everything that he's done. So on the court, I mean, talking to Malik Monk the other day, I mean, he's talking about how he's like an undersized power forward. Maybe this helps them go small. I don't know, but it's a lot of guards. It's clearly not a finished product, as Scott Perry said the other day. But this is a very imbalanced team, and they're going to have to give them some help. But I think it made them a little bit more interesting, objectively speaking. I just don't know that it made them all that better in terms of wins and losses. But I do feel he'll help them in the regular season.
Yeah, my biggest concern is, like, I think Russ can still play, like, watching him last year. And there is a force and an activity to Russell Westbrook that very few players have ever had in the league. I mean, you don't, as a 6'2.25" guard, go out there and average a triple-double, like, 4 entire seasons. And like, I know, like, we always hear the triple-double thing, right? That means that dude averaged 10 rebounds a game.
Oh.
Like, it's one thing to get to 10 assists per game, but 10 rebounds a game. And the biggest thing for me, like, when you look at him and, like, how will he fit, I think, strangely enough, when you lose Keegan Murray for a month plus, you lost your second best rebounder. All of a sudden, Domantas Sabonis is ailing with a hamstring injury. You lost the best rebounder in the league, at least for a game or two. So my biggest thing for him is, like, go show these guys what it is for a guard to go get a rebound. Go show them what it is for team rebounding, because that's where I think the Kings really need him as far as a backup point guard. Like, look, he turns the ball over a ton. He's a ridiculously bad 3-point shooter. He doesn't help one of their biggest weaknesses on this team, which is shooting the three. And I don't even know how much he helps as a defender, but he is a good player, and he's better than some of the players that the Kings have already that may have taken minutes here. So I think the biggest thing I'm intrigued by right away is who gets a short stick here, who loses out. I think Doug Christie is going to run plenty of small ball, like 3-guard lineups. I do not believe that Russell Westbrook is a small forward or a power forward or any other type of forward. He's played guard for the last 17, 18 years, and he's been extremely good at it. He's an MVP. But I guess let's start there. Like, who does lose out here? Clearly, Deon Carter's just shot to the moon. But besides Deon Carter, who else is going to lose out minutes? Because you now have 5 guards in the backcourt, all of which are 25 to 30 minute per game guards, and you don't have that many minutes in the backcourt.
Yeah, there's part of me that is, as I watched some of his defensive stuff from last year, talking about Russ, there were moments where he was guarding like more threes than I think I was really aware of, to be honest. And again, that's definitely not like an ideal matchup, but he's somebody that, like, when Zach LaVine talks about, hey, I'm a pretty good on-ball defender because I'm a crazy athlete. Like, I think that Russ is fairly similar in that aspect, and he's going to have that level of compete to where, hey, if you put him on there, he's going to try his ass off. And so at least that is something. But so that's where I get a little bit curious about, I think what he's defending is sort of how I at least define the position a little bit. But as you mentioned, I think Deon is clearly on the outside. He may have already been, to be honest. But after that, I mean, I'm curious a little bit about Keon. I know it's just preseason, but he didn't play much in Game 3. He played great last night in LA. So Keon is definitely someone that I look at a little bit there. And Malik is probably the other one that comes into my mind. I personally think that Nick Clifford deserves to be on the floor. And maybe I'm early in saying that, but I think that he has shown a lot. And I don't think they have many guys with his sort of size and versatility on both ends of the floor. So I think Nick should be out there. And the main guys I look at aside from Deon are probably more so Malik and Keon, I would say.
I also wonder for Nick Clifford. That he's played well in the preseason. Obviously, I don't put a lot of stock into the preseason with respect, but I like the impact that he's had with some of his teammates. I don't disagree with what Brenden said, but I could also envision a world where with respect to Russ, maybe these first few weeks are a little bit of a ramp up period for him. Maybe he's not coming out here playing as much as maybe people thought initially, and we'll kind of see how that goes. But yeah, sorry, James, I cut you off.
No, it's okay. Like, yeah, I don't know who's going to lose, minutes, but I certainly think that Keon Ellis did himself a really nice favor yesterday by having a great shooting night and just going crazy. And so for me, it was number one, a check-in game, which I always like to see from players. I think a couple of players had their check-in games, including Dennis Schröder. But I also I am kind of concerned about just the logjam in the backcourt. It's not being a Debbie Downer, Frank. So we'll just make sure that you just get sent out to Narnia. How about that?
You should leave him there. You should leave him there. By the way,
Frank
can kiss my ass.
Yeah.
For people who saw Frank Perez and his comments in the chat, maybe aren't, maybe just listening on the audio stream, he asked why 3 Kings insiders are so negative about the team. None of us are employed by the team. One, we get paid by separate entities to cover your team, and you, as a fan, should not want anybody who covers your team with purple-colored glasses on. You want
to blow smoke up your ass.
So there's that. So Frank maybe didn't understand what journalism is, and we all come from different backgrounds. So That's okay. Enjoy your Saturday. Frank, I was not one to. I would have left you in the chat. I don't block people, but that's okay.
Frank, I believe Frank can still watch. So hi, Frank. He just can't comment anymore, at least for right now.
Maybe he understands. I don't know.
I don't know. Either way, we don't work for
I'd
the
be
team.
awful at digging a ditch, by the way. He said we should all be digging ditches. It would probably make me more of a hardened, masculine individual, and I'm not that. So,
as someone who has dug ditches in the past, hey, this is a better gig. It is, but I actually think we do a pretty good job of being fair and balanced and honest. So again, for me, I think maybe it's Malik that loses out here. I don't know who else. I mean,
you think so? That's the one guy I don't think it impacts really, because I think it just makes him more of the backup too.
Okay, and
so would that mean Keon?
I think it's in the 3 category. Honestly, I think you just kind of figure it out. I mean, I think they're going to play. I still have a hunch that they play small more times than not. I mean, obviously it's matchup dependent upon how that goes, but I think this is going to be a rather small team.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing they can do about that. It's a little too late, Sean.
You have to play to your strengths. You can't just put
pint-sized team.
Yeah, you can't just put guys out there in hopes that they, grow a few inches and are able to rebound and be something that they haven't been their entire career. A shot rim protector, things like that. I think you're going to play to your strengths.
So does that mean you wouldn't go Isaac Jones or Dario Saric starting?
I would not start either one of them, to be honest. But I would definitely have those 2 players in the mix, and just it kind of match up dependent upon what happens.
Yeah, I still don't think Doug Christie knows what he's going to do with the starting lineup. I think that there are plenty of options here, and especially if you add Russ. I could see, again, DeMar DeRozan moving to the 4 temporarily while Keegan Murray's out, Zach LaVine at the 3, Keon Ellis at the 2, and Dennis Schröder at the 1. I was pleasantly surprised to see Dennis Schröder kind of find his game last night. I think he finished with 25 points. 2 assists is a little bit of a concern, but the team really did move the ball as a group. And so, I mean, sometimes you're just the unlucky guy that every time you pass it to somebody, they miss. That's always a possibility. But I think overall, the team looked way better. Should we read anything into the fact that they looked way better without DeMar DeRozan, Domantas Sabonis, Keegan Murray, and Malik Monk? Or should we just go, hey, they finally look like a cohesive unit? Sean shaking his head.
Yes, James, that's a nonsense question. Who'd the Lakers play first? Nobody wanted anything to do with that game. Someone's going to score. I don't even think that Schröder did anything I still think he's kind of sleptwalked through this preseason, as he probably should, given the schedule that he's had. I think you'll see a different Dennis Schröder in once the season hits. But no, some guys can go out there and have some nice moments. I'll give you this, Maxime Reynaud missing those 2 free throws and then having the second chance opportunity to kind of make up for it. That's the type of shit you're hoping to see. That's the type of things that can go a long way for a young player looking to grow some confidence. So I certainly like that. There are moments you can take away, but there's not. Other than that, don't read too much into it.
Yeah, there's a little part of me that's curious, but I do feel like it's kind of early, and specifically with DeMar. But like, I think that DeMar it's a weird thing to navigate a little bit, because I think the ball stopper label is a little bit unfair, because I feel like that paints DeMar as somebody that's not a willing passer, and he's more than willing. I think he's a really, really good passer. It's just his style of play a little bit sometimes doesn't, I think, mesh perfectly with the rest of the other guys. But yeah, I mean, I think it's far too early to kind of say that, but it was exciting to see those young guys be able to catch a little bit of a rhythm, play within the flow. And yeah, I mean, I thought the guys were looking good, but I would definitely say too early to jump to those conclusions.
Yeah. What were your biggest standouts that you've seen from preseason? I mean, like, clearly Zach LaVine was the best player on the Kings without any, like, it wasn't even remotely close. I thought Domas had some really good games before he had the hamstring injury. In case you guys all missed that, Domas is going to be reevaluated in 1 week. That came out this morning. We also, like, just to tie a bow on some of the other business aspect things, the Kings waived Terrence Davis today to get down to the league maximum of 15 regular roster players and 3 two-way contracts. I don't know what that means for Terrence Davis. I don't know if he will end up in Stockton or not. I don't even know who owns his G League rights, to be honest with you. But sort of wish TD well. He's always been extremely nice to us in the locker room and everything else. But what were your guys' sort of, if there's a couple of things that stood out to you in preseason that you think are worth mentioning?
I mean, I think Nick Clifford looking better with every passing game. And I guess somewhat of a pun there, because the passing looked phenomenal last night. I thought that was something that really stood out. His poise, as we've heard people talk about throughout training camp and in some of these games, I thought shined through a lot last night, whether that's running a pick and roll, and I thought making the right decision more often than not. He starts the game guarding Luka Doncic last night, and I know Luka went crazy, but it's Luka freaking Doncic. Like, there's only so much you could do. I think he can absolutely clean up the fouls, and that's something that he's just going to get more accustomed to over time. But I think that Nick has looked like a really well-rounded player and looked more and more comfortable with each passing game, which, I mean, I think to be able to see the growth through 4 preseason games is a promising sign. He talks a lot about how being an older rookie has helped him feel more ready and prepared for this moment in his rookie year. So I think he's looked really good. And the other thing I'm still curious to monitor a little bit is the Isaac Jones situation, like moving him to the 4. I'm still not personally convinced. I know some of the threes went down a little bit more last night, but he's been aggressive on the offensive glass. I think that's one of the ways he can impact the game the most. He had that big offensive board after Maxime missed those free throws and allowed him to get a second chance. He also made the free throw at the end of that game, and for what it's worth, said that Doug Christie told him to miss the second one, and that he's never tried to miss a free throw in his life. He said, "I don't know if you could tell. I think we all could tell." Keon joked that he said, my boy was trying to throw himself a self lob. That thing had a lot of heat on it for sure. So yeah, I'm curious about the Isaac Jones changing of position, because I kind of think that he could be a really good 5 center option for this team. So something I'm monitoring a little bit, but more than anything, like you mentioned, Zach stood out, and then I think Nick has looked really impressive for a rookie.
Sean?
Yeah, I don't have much more to add to that. I think I'm just pointing out the way Zach, effort-wise on defense, I don't know if the results were there, but I did like the effort he was giving defensively in some of these games. I didn't see, was it the Portland game? And I didn't even see all of last night. So I'm glad you mentioned Isaac Jones. I totally agree, by the way, on Nick Clifford, but I am glad you mentioned Isaac, because every time I've seen Isaac on the floor, you don't see much mistakes from him that at least that I can pick up on. Everyone is speaking very highly of him throughout this training camp and preseason. I think he's been very impactful, and I think the game has slowed down for him quite a bit. I think he knows where he's most effective for this team and what they need of him. And to be able to stretch the floor the way he has shown his ability to do is very, very encouraging. So this is the type of growth you want to see from a player. I think he's come a long way from what we saw last summer league, not this past year, but the year before that. Because to be honest, you were looking at a very, very raw player, and to what he's done in just a year's time is leaps and bounds where he's come from. So I'm pretty encouraged for that young man. But yeah, I'm just glad preseason's over, to be honest. I think this team has a lot to figure out. I think they obviously have a lot of obstacles and adversity they have to overcome with some of these injuries and trying to figure out. I mean, you could argue the two dudes that they could not lose were Domas and Keegan Murray.
1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Schröder would have been in that mix just because of the not having the true point guard, prior to signing Russ. But yeah, this is I'm glad they're going through it now. Hopefully it's not a thing for them, a theme going into the season. But these are going to be some interesting times, and I think they just got to get out of the gate and figure it out quickly.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I think Isaac Jones really didn't look great throughout preseason until like the last 5 or 6 minutes of the Lakers game, where all of a sudden he figured out that he needs to go rebound and he needs to go be active and be part of it. And I thought he was excellent, like down the stretch. He was an impact player in the fourth quarter against the Lakers. Again, it's late in preseason, but what you're looking for is for a moment where a player just goes, oh, okay, that's what I have to do to get on the court. I've got to go fly in and hammer back, put back dunks. And I've got to go be active and try to, tip the ball out if I can't grab a rebound. I think the biggest issue the Kings have walking into the season, besides the injury issue, it's part of the injury issue that they lost their two best rebounders. And that's going to be a horrible problem for them throughout the first half, through the first 20 games of the season, while they're trying to, figure out what to do without Keegan Murray. There's a big difference between Keegan Murray averaging 7 rebounds a game and the rest of this team. None of them are high-end rebounders for their position, except for maybe Neat Clifford and maybe Deon Carter. Deon Carter, I don't know, can get on the floor. Neat Clifford, we're going to have to see how much he plays, playing behind DeMar DeRozan, but that's going to be an issue. Like Zach LaVine, Dennis Schröder, Keon Ellis, DeMar DeRozan, like keep going down the list. None of these guys are good rebounders for their position. Like they haven't been historically. So for me, Isaac Jones has an opportunity here. The other guy that stood out, I think Neat Clifford just continued to get better the entire preseason, which is spectacular to see. The other thing I think was phenomenal for him is you play the Clippers, and there was a point where he defended Kawhi Leonard, he defended James Harden, and he defended Chris Paul, 3 first ballot Hall of Famers. He gets to the 4th game of preseason, and he's got to go against Luka Doncic. Again, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I'll say the same thing for Russell Westbrook. Just because I point out that he turns the ball over and a lot and he misses his 3-point shots, that doesn't mean I don't think he's like a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer and clearly one of the top 75 players to ever play the game. But I think Neat Clifford got he got to play against so many different looks, and that's so good for him as a young player. The other thing I wanted to point out is I think Dylan Cardwell, for as much as I don't think he's going to play with the main team right now, he sure did look under control for being an out of control big man, if that makes sense. Like he didn't do stupid things. He didn't get a bunch of fouls. He didn't shove people to the ground, but he was physical. He was strong. What do you have? 7 rebounds in 13 minutes yesterday. And some of those came early in the game when he went in the first time. I think he's been really good defensively. I watched him wave off players and try to go defend Luka Doncic. I'm like, what in the world am I watching here? So I think that's the other player that stood out, that had a better camp than I thought was going to have and a better preseason. So again, I don't know how long he's going to take to get to the bigs, but he sure does look like a player to me.
You know who he kind of eerily reminds me of? He's taller than this player I'm about to say, but for Kings fans of the 90s, Michael Smith. Not very skilled at any one thing, but just a whole bunch of energy, physical, and very strong. Like this dude could probably, there's always that joke, who would you least like to fight in the NBA, and how most NBA players don't like to fight, but everyone alludes to the Charles Oakleys of the world, or
James Johnson, who's
James
like
Johnson now.
400-degree black belt and can do a roundhouse kick and still hit the rim at like age 40. Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. It just, those types of players, I think Dylan Cardwell might be that junkyard dog, that hockey goon, if you will, for this team. Having good moments is great. I'm looking forward to seeing if he can improve in any one thing in Stockton, but certainly he's a football player in a basketball player's body. But he's 6'11", so having the way he plays and being able to scrap like that could be fun to watch.
Yeah, the offense definitely needs to pick up a little bit before he's NBA ready. Like, watched him try to get some shots up in practice the other day, and it was not pretty. It was something. BJ Armstrong, actually, I thought was interesting for your assistant GM to be over there. Obviously, former player, but like helping him with his form on these mid-range jumpers and stuff. So I think there's definitely still progress to be made, because right now there's a hole at the backup 5 spot, right? Like, and maybe we'll get to this conversation, but say Drew Eubanks slides into that starting 5 spot, if Sabonis is going to miss the first 2 games, like, who is your backup 5? Is it Maxime Reynaud? Is it Dylan Cardwell? Are they relying on a rookie? Do they go Isaac Jones direction, which is probably where I would go if it was me? But I do think Dylan has a little bit of ways to go, even if defensively he fits the part. The switching is there, the rim protection is there. Again, like most rookies, fouling could be cleaned up, but I definitely worry about his offensive game at his current point.
Yeah, I mean, he's like a true rim runner. Like, if he can stand in the dunker spot and give you a lob here and there, I think Neat Clifford always looks for him, which is really fun. Even last night, I think Neat threw a ball up that he thought Cardwell was going to dunk, and he got fouled or something. And I think a lot of teams, until he proves he can hit a free throw, anytime he does get that opportunity, just foul him.
He's going to be hacked. They're going to hack him. They're going to employ a hack strategy on Dylan Cardwell anytime he's on the floor. That's what the opposition will do. Yeah,
he's still really raw as a player, but I look at, a team like Dallas, and they run Daniel Gafford and
Derek Lively.
Derek Lively. And to be honest with you, Daniel Gafford came into the league and he was paper thin and super raw, and he was more of a like stretch 5 than he was a rim runner, and now they've converted him into that type of player. I mean, you'd hope that he would learn like a push shot, like Rashawn Holmes, or something different, just to give him a little bit of space away from the basket here and there. But I still think like there was a lot to like. Again, for a player who, like Moses Brown got waived today, but that's a player who, like, he fouls the living crap out of people. I did not feel that that's who Dylan Cardwell was. Like, he's a lot more under control for that style of player, and I was pleasantly surprised. Like, defensively, I thought he was brilliant more often than not. So yeah, definitely interesting to watch.
But he's also playing against. I mean, I get it, but I just want people.
You're not a fan of Nick Smith Jr. and Christian
right?
Coloco?
I mean, yeah, come on. I will say this.
He played in the first half last night, and
Yeah.
he held up against the Jackson Hayes of the world, and that's kind of where I would put him, is that style of player. And Jackson Hayes is, of course, a couple of years ahead of him in development, but I'd also Dylan Cardwell is a lot stronger than Jackson Hayes.
Yeah, oh, no doubt. And that's the thing that's so funny. It's especially if anybody got to see him at FanFest today. I mean, sweetest dude. Like, Dylan Cardwell's like big heart, sweet guy, very, very human. But on the court, he's a menace. He's a terror. Like, the guy, you're afraid of him. You don't want to play with a guy like that. Like, I was never a basketball player. I was a baseball player. If you were playing basketball and like had one of those guys that was just clearly bigger than everybody, and you didn't want to get near him because the guy, even if he's on your own team, is swinging his arms all over the place and he's just so much bigger than you. It's kind of like how Cardwell is. Like, I would feel in watching him play, because everyone knows where he is on the court at all times, just because you're aware of just what a brick that guy is.
I'm still a little hung up on the All I Want for Christmas choice in October, but that's fine.
Did you watch the video?
I did not yet. You said he did pretty well.
Crowd participation on 1,000. Like, he played to the audience.
That's the way to do it.
It's definitely worth your time. The 3 rookies went. They all sang. Maxime Reynaud did a Michael Jackson Billie Jean he had his phone. He was reading the lyrics, so that wasn't great. But he knew he had to play to the crowd, so he jumped up on the scorer's table at one point.
Wow.
Yeah, it's something. And then of all people, Meek Clifford went out there and did Nicki Minaj, so that was cool.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Wow. Weird, wild stuff.
Good video.
What do we think about like the Sabonis injury? It doesn't sound like it's severe. It's a strain. It's a grade 1 strain. Again, he'll be reevaluated in 1 week. Knowing Domas, I would not be shocked if we saw him before that. And I don't think this is something like he's not someone who misses games, and especially the first week of the season. But I also like from my memory of that game, he started grabbing his low back and his glute area when he got thrown to the floor by Zubats. Zubats just chucked him to the ground because he was sick and tired of him boxing him out. But like, what do you think the Kings are going to do? I mean, clearly we're going to see a lot of Drew Eubanks to start the season, but this is again one of those really, really like shallow positions for the Kings where they don't have a bunch of depth.
Yeah, and stylistically, I mean, they run so much through Domas. Obviously, he's a guy that I think maybe his greatest skill is making his teammates better. And obviously, like Drew doesn't fall into that same category. Drew is somebody that, from what I've seen in preseason, like a little bit more. I've been a little surprised at how much he is attempting to finish around the rim. And the touch has been okay at times, but he's definitely trying to, when he's around the basket, he's probably going to attempt to try to put something up. And it goes okay. I think he does have a nice touch, but just so different stylistically from Domas. Even, I would say, you know, we've been a little bit critical at times of Domas's defense. I would say Drew is even a tier below that. You know, Domas has decent foot speed in certain aspects. So you're losing out on something there. And really, I'm more so of what is this backup center? Because I don't feel very great about running Maxime or Dylan Cardwell out there. Again, I would probably go Isaac Jones. But like, is Drew Eubanks playing 30 minutes a night? Is that what this is going to look like here when Domas is out? Because I don't really know how I would feel about that. So as you mentioned, it's one of the spots that is probably most difficult for the Kings to replace, with Keegan Murray being right there. And I mean, I think that you're just going to have a lot of offensive reliance on guys that are capable bucket scorers for what it's worth. Zach LaVine, we talked about him having a great preseason. If DeMar's out there, Malik, and those guys are going to need to do a little bit more when it comes to the offensive end of the floor. But yeah, I'm mainly curious about that backup center spot, because I think it's obvious Drew is going to get more run. It's just after that, I don't know what that's going to look like.
What about Dario Saric? Like, because you did mention a bunch of guys there, and Dario started one of the preseason games, didn't look great. I think he started it because he, in the previous game, hit 4 straight threes and looked like a ball player. I didn't think last night he was bad. I think he hit some shots. He actually was active. But where do you think he fits in? Is it the 4? Is it the 5? Again, I think it's kind of, you know, Doug Christie has to just throw everything at the wall at this point.
To me, it's definitely the 4. I think he's going to be more impactful there than the 5, especially the way he can stretch the floor, corner 3. I just think Isaac makes so much more sense at the 5 in comparison to at least in comparison to Saric. I don't know. I think they could get a little creative with this absence. It's only hopefully going to be a week or maybe even less, but sounds like it's going to be a solid week. I don't think they're going to take any chances with Domas. I know how much he was looking forward to just starting this season. I know he's excited about everything. He's one of these guys that all look at this team as something that they can prove a lot of people wrong. There's a lot of people believing in their talent within this core. So I think trying to replace that, at least in the short term, is you can get away with some things, especially with the 2 teams that they're going to play. You know, you're talking about Phoenix and Utah here in this early going. So how they go about it, I think it could vary. I think you'll see it maybe a different rotation, maybe even a different starting 5 on Wednesday than you would see on Friday if Sabonis is out.
Yeah, I do think like what we're going to see here in the first couple of weeks of the season with Keegan Murray out is a game by game starting lineup. I don't know that Doug Christie is going to like center on any one specific lineup. Just because, again, you mentioned you play, Phoenix in the opener, where they're running Nick Richards out there sometimes at the 4. They're 5. They brought in a bunch of dudes, but Mark Williams is a big guy. You kind of hope that you'd have some sort of size against him. I don't know how much they're going to play their rookie early in the season. But that's one team. And then the next night, you're going to go up against, 2 legitimate 7-footers at the 4-5 with the Jazz are running out there with Markkanen and why am I drawing a blank?
Their 3, Walker Kessler, but their 3 may be like, it could be Bryce Sensabaugh, who's got good size. It could be Ace Bailey, who's 6'10" out there. Like Utah has a lot of size.
Yeah, they do. And the Kings don't have that at all. Now, some of those players are young and some of those players, again, Markkanen's great, but there's still like sort of the jury's out on some of the other players, and we don't know what Ace Bailey's going to be quite yet, although he's looked pretty impressive in preseason. So I think early on you might be able to get away with it. But again, the point is that the Kings lack size. They're going to have to match up somewhat with some of these teams, or they're just going to have to go small and hope that they can run and gun like they did against the Lakers. And it's just kind of a weird situation, right? So I'm not sure. Where are we at? Let's see. We've got about 20 minutes left, right? That's where we're at. I want to get to the business of basketball, and we'll get to that in a minute. But any surprises with the final roster?
No.
No, I didn't think so either.
No,
Yeah.
Nothing on my end either.
Yeah, I mean, even the way the locker room was set up, we kind of knew right when we walked in that Terrence Davis wasn't going to be part of the team, or there was a good chance about that, just because that's kind of the way the locker room was set up. I think the Kings are trying to help him get back in the league. That's what they did at the end of last season, and then again trying to see if he can not make the team, but at least put on a good show when he did get opportunities. I didn't have any surprises. What about the idea that the Kings wouldn't sign Russ until they cleared out backcourt depth? Do you think we're going to see some movement here in the next couple of weeks when it comes to that, or do you think this is all like they're going to have to figure things out down the road?
I don't know if it's days, weeks, or months, but I clearly think that this team is poised to make a move. I don't know if it'll ever get to the balance that maybe most people would be looking for from an ideal roster, but I do think that this team is very much set up to make a move, even a smaller move in the very early stages of the season. But I also feel like a lot of that is predicated upon the success of the team.
Yeah.
Meaning like more of a forward, like win now sort of move?
Well, I mean, yeah, you clearly have. Well, I mean, look, it just depends upon how this team is playing. I think depending upon how things go, could dictate, what type of pieces they're looking for. I mean, if this thing is abysmal by December, you could be looking at some different calculus going into the rest of into the trade deadline and into the latter half of the season. But if this team can hold their head above water and show that they give a damn and that talent is bearing fruit, then yeah, you can be real aggressive and hopefully even things out a little bit. I do think that they're going to need to add some added size to this roster. I don't know what that looks like, but I think they're going to be very aggressive in trying to balance this a little bit better than what they currently have.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. I mean, I mainly think that like if I'm Scott Perry, I'm still continuing to monitor what the offers are for Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, depending on how their years play out. Like I think there's a curiosity on my end of, hey, if Zach's playing well, obviously that helps the Kings, but what does that do for his trade value? I don't know that he's necessarily part of the long-term plan here, but it feels like the two guys that were kind of floating around in rumors this offseason are probably the likely ones, with Devin Carter for sure, and then maybe Malik Monk. I think that his archetype of player is maybe not quite as valued as it was in previous years. Not to take anything away from what he's able to do as a player. He's a total bucket microwave scorer. Like I think not quite on the same level, but he's very Lou Williams-ish. And those guys have for sure a role in the NBA. But when you're a guard-heavy roster and the way that we're talking about, hey, who's going to lose out minutes, those are the two guys I point at. So in my mind, those are also where you would look at when it comes to rebalancing more. And I'd imagine more closer to the trade deadline rather than trying to do something more in the immediate. I would think that you'd want to see a little bit of what you have here.
Yeah, and like I know some people pointed out, like Denver's looking for guard depth, and maybe Devin Carter would work in a swap there. You're not getting Peyton Watson for Devin Carter. Like at this point, I don't know what Devin Carter's value is on the open market, especially if the team that drafted him with the 13th pick, albeit it's a different front office, if they're completely off of him and willing to sign a nearly 37-year-old Russell Westbrook just to make sure that they have enough guard depth, that doesn't bode well for you. So the Kings did this week. They picked up the third-year option on Devin Carter's rookie scale contract. It is so, I don't even know if it's happened more than once or twice where somebody didn't have the third-year option picked up on their rookie scale contract. Like if guys just aren't players at all, sometimes that happens, but most players at least get that third year, and then it's the fourth year that a lot of teams don't pick up, like what we saw with Harry Giles a few years back where the Kings did not pick up the fourth-year option. So, like, look, I think, like, that's just a way to keep some value in Devin to say, hey, look, if he gets traded to another team, they get to decide whether they get to pick up the fourth-year option. They get to decide, because if not, when you trade him, the most he can sign for is his rookie scale number, and it becomes like that Jake LaRavia thing that happened with the Kings last year in this offseason. So
I think the most recent example, if I have this right, and it was the third year, not the fourth, is Jalen Hood-Schifino with the Lakers.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Derek throws out here in the chat, trade Keon for Tari Eason. Houston's not doing that. And in fact, they're trying to figure out how much they're going to pay Tari Eason at this point. And there's a really interesting discussion by Mark Stein today on rookie scale extensions and all that stuff, which is pretty crazy. Everyone should dive into that. Let's get to the rookie scale extension real quick. We did see that Keegan Murray got a 5-year, $140 million extension. Surprised? Anyone?
I'm not. I was very confident in what I even said last week. We were talking about where this contract would land. I said it would be north of $25 million. It averages out that way. So no, I know this was a long negotiation. I don't know about like how stern they were or what the temperature of the room was, but it was ongoing for sure. These are things that had been talked about for a while. I don't know if they were, hours and hours in conference rooms or on Zoom meetings or on phones and stuff like that. But the discussion was long, and I think I honestly feel like this is the type of move, and I alluded to it before, that Sacramento has to make. Some people will call it an overpay. Kings are used to that. You're keeping some, we talked about it, like the unicorn in the league is being able to find a player like Keegan who's a two-way player at that position. You wish he might be a little bit taller. You might wish he might be able to be a little bit more of a rim protector. But he's not paid like a superstar. He's not paid like a perennial Hall of Famer, or excuse me, a perennial all-star player. But he's right under that, and that's what his ceiling is. I don't think it's completely untradeable. Should you ever have to move off of it, given what Keegan gives you. But it's a bloated contract a little bit, maybe right now. But compared to what he's been able to show in terms of being a two-way player who should have a little bit more opportunity offensively as the years go on, it's not surprising. In fact, I think it's pretty right on with what we would have expected. And I think given what is maybe following with him in years to come, being that there's not really a whole lot of you've got Domas, DeRozan's going to be an expiring contract soon. Zach has got another year. You don't really have anybody following him beyond 27. So if you had to commit to somebody, this is the guy. You hope Keon Ellis will have a something that's locked up as well. It won't be to the tune of $28 million annually, but this is about what I expected for him.
Brenden?
Yeah, I think it's reasonable. We mentioned the Jabari Smith Jr. number a lot, the 5-year 122. I think that's just under 25 million annually. And I think that's a reasonable starting point. But also, if you look at years prior, guys were getting paid more than that. Like this is Trey Murphy money. Trey Murphy got 4 years, 112, which is 28 million a year, similar to exact same number, just with one more year than what Keegan Murray ended up doing. So, as Sean said, I think this is a player that's very crucial to the Sacramento Kings, and this absence is very much going to show that. Even the conversations we've had to have of who the heck starts in his place, like they don't really have another guy of his caliber, versatility, specifically positionally. So somebody that you want to keep around. And I've been a little bit surprised by the amount of people that saw that deal and were like, what the hell are the Kings doing? This is a crazy overpay. I think it's easy for people to look at his numbers year by year and just those statistical counts and be like, hey, he's digressed every year. But context specific, as you guys know, and a lot of people listening will, like he had a little bit of a lesser offensive role. And obviously, if he was better in that aspect, I'm sure he would have just earned more naturally. But I'm a little bit curious about how he can continue to grow into truly a $28 million a year player, but I don't think he's far off. The rebounding is there. The defensive versatility, I think, is phenomenal that Keegan has showed, even if he was maybe a little bit overcast in what they were asking him to do last year of guard Trae Young, and now you're guarding Kevin Durant and LeBron James. I think that might be a little bit much, but he's a player that has a tremendous amount of value in this league. And if, a year or two down the line, it does end up looking like an overpay, I don't think it's grossly ridiculous. Like Sean said, I think it would remain a tradable contract for a guy that it plays an extremely valuable position and role in the modern NBA.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit over what I think the Kings should have been comfortable playing, but we're talking about a couple of million a year. And to get the deal done, you got to get it done. And to get a 5th year is huge for the Kings, especially with Keegan. Keegan basically gave up his free agency all the way up until the time he's in his 30s. That's crazy. And it's a bummer for him because he came into the league as a 22-year-old. So by the time he gets his second NBA contract, it's going to lead to 30, as opposed to being a free agent like 27, 28 and getting a third huge contract. But still, I think this is, you brought up Jabari Smith. The difference I see with Jabari Smith is that the Rockets have Şengün, they've got Amin Thompson, they've got Tari Eason. They have other young players that they also have to pay long term. And those are players that they're trying to build a base around. And Jabari isn't even the best of that group, not even remotely close. He's probably the 3rd or 4th best out of their group of young players. They're not going to, I was surprised they paid Jabari that much. So I'm kind of intrigued to see what happens here and see if Keegan is a guy that plays up to that contract. But either way, I think he's going to be like Cam Johnson the rest of his career, where that contract is right around what people would kind of the top end of what they would pay, but they would still pay if they were going to acquire him. I don't think the Keon extension, I just want to get to this. Sean mentioned the Keon extension. They can extend Keon at any time from what I've been told. So like Keon Ellis, there is no wait until February or anything else. If they want to extend Keon, they can right now. It's whether they know the value of Keon and to them, and whether I think Keon is interested in getting an extension with the Kings. Those are two questions that have yet to be answered. And we might find that out sooner rather than later. But, if you're Keon and you come out in opening night, Russell Westbrook's playing 24 minutes and you're playing 3 minutes off the bench, that's trouble. Sean's got to dip out. So we're going to, me and Brenden we'll chat with you guys for just a couple more minutes. And then we'll cut this thing short pretty quick. Sean, peace out. Thanks for hopping in.
Are we doing another one before Wednesday?
We will try. Yeah, Tuesday. We could probably do it Tuesday.
Get on record with our number of wins or anything like that. Do we want to do that right now, or do we want to do that? Because I know I'm just throwing out there. I don't know yet. So
just in case, go ahead and give your number right now.
I have no idea. So I'm not going to.
What the?
Thanks for asking, man.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But if you had told me definitively we weren't going to do one before Wednesday, then yeah. But yeah, I do have to run. I apologize. But my final thoughts is don't expect too much from this season, but still have fun with it. Like it's you have a lot of you have a real odd mix of talent on this team, and people ask me all the time, like, this can't work, right? And Russell Westbrook literally leads by a moniker, a theme, a narrative that says, why not? And it's funny being around this group lately and seeing how much they kind of are all kind of feeling that weirdly in a weird way. There's no analytic for chemistry. There's no stat for chemistry. If they can get the right chemistry and like there's a whole lot that has to go right. We've talked about that. I'm not saying that they're going to be world beaters and be in there in the Western Conference Finals or anything like that, but I think this could potentially be a very intriguing, interesting year. So with that in mind, we'll talk about the prospects for the season in our next episode, I'm sure. And I'll give maybe, I don't know, we'll give predictions for a win-loss total, but I do oddly enough feel like this could be a fun year. I don't know about you guys.
All right.
Fun, but not good.
Right.
They're going to be shit, but they could be entertaining shit.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to compare it to the year
fun
that
and really getting kicked hard in the nuts type of way.
I don't want to compare it to the year that Ron Artest was traded to the Kings, but that was a team that battled for a low seed in the Western Conference and still was able to be very entertaining. I mean, the Ron Artest, Bonzi Wells team was really one of the most fun teams I ever covered. I thought they were entertaining to watch. They gave the Spurs a run for their money. We don't have to go down that whole road because I got to bail. But I'm not saying that they're going to be that. Don't get me wrong. But potentially they could be a team that if a lot goes right and the right moves are made, you might have something here.
Sean says they might have something. All right.
I wonder if Frank Perez heard that. Is that being too? That wasn't being negative.
We'll see. We'll see. Frank Perez will probably be back at some point. We'll see.
That's okay.
All right, Sean, take off. We'll see you. We'll see you soon.
I'll send you the hoodie.
There we go. He said he had 5 minutes, 12 minutes ago, and then he talked for 12 minutes. So
there we go.
Shout out to Sean. Brenden, I know we're not going to keep this thing going for much longer, but there are a couple of things that that we have here in the chat that I wanted to get to. Yeah, this is one. Is anyone worried about how hideous all the starters look together from Meg?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I would say that it still feels kind of early to, be waving a flag of concern necessarily. But I mean, I think it's what we've talked about in general. The mesh and the fit of this roster is very questionable. There's a lot of ball handlers, and Doug Christie got asked about it in pregame a little bit yesterday. Hey, you only have one ball, and all these guys are used to being on ball. That's how they excel. His answer is, well, that ball needs to be moving around. And I think that, obviously makes sense and there's logic there, but it's a lot easier said than done. I think that we talked about Zach playing well. I think specifically playing off of Domas well has been really encouraging, because I remember when he came in last year and Domas talking about, hey, that's a guy that needs the ball in his hands. It's a little bit different than these DHOs. And I think that there's been a little bit of an adjustment there from both of their sides. So certainly some things that I think will need to be ironed out with the fit of all this. My main question is probably the defensive identity that Doug Christie is trying to push. And I get why that would be the case. They have to work their way to attempting to be capable there. But I just also don't think that's the strength of this roster. And I don't think I'm surprising anyone by saying that. They are bucket getters. And I don't think it's surprising their best preseason game, take preseason for what you will, was the game that they were actually hitting shots. I think that is going to be a big aspect for this team. And when shots are going down, I think offensively that starting group could look really good, but it's going to be a curious thing. I will also note it feels like DeMar has been the first sub most of these games when he was out there. And I think that's a way that you can finagle this a little bit, right? Is, hey, maybe DeMar, you're going to be the one running that second unit, and maybe it's Neat Clifford or Keon Ellis subbing in early, somebody that can just play a lesser role in that offensive starting group or just in that starting group, and maybe DeMar where he can get to his strengths a little bit with that second unit.
I agree with so much what you said there. I think the two-man group, the two-man game between Domas and Zach LaVine has been tremendous. They look like they worked on that. They look like they're in sync, and they look really, really good. I also like, this is an issue. There was a lot more ball movement with the young guys and the vets. I thought that game 4 preseason, that's what Doug Christie wants the game to look like. Like frenetic pace, people flying all over the place on the defensive end, but on the offensive end, the ball was hopping. I mean, they had, I think their first 10 shots, 9 were assisted. And of those 9, the assist came from all 5 starters. Everyone scored and everyone had an assist in the first 10 shots. So to me, that's a really, really good sign. But if it doesn't bleed over into the lineup that includes Domantas Sabonis and Keegan Murray and Malik Monk and why am I drawing a blank? Who else missed? Well, Russell Westbrook, who wasn't there, but DeMar DeRozan didn't play. Like, if it doesn't bleed over, then like, what is it good for? Like, it doesn't matter how good the young guys look passing the ball if they're not going to play, if they're going to sit on the bench and watch the vets.
The other thing I would point out real quick is that I thought in game 3, Doug emphasized that, hey, our first unit actually played really well. They played towards their strengths, and I thought they got off to a good start in that game 3. I believe it was game 3 against the Clippers. And then the second unit came in, and that's actually where it started to slip up a little bit. Like the starting group has had moments of, I thought, looking pretty solid together, albeit mainly on the offensive end.
Yeah. Tom L., you bring up this. I haven't heard any extension talk at all with LaVine. I don't know where you're hearing that. I know from the beginning of the summer, it was like, hey, there's no extension talks. Like, we're not having extension talks. That may have changed. I mean, Zach LaVine has played extremely well. I think the biggest thing for me is, like, he's under contract 1 more year. He'll be 32, I think, at the end of that deal. If you were going to extend Zach LaVine right now and you were able to get him on like a reasonable contract, like again, if you could get him to opt out of next season at $49 million and give him a 3-year 90 or something, or a 3-year 100, I would be perfectly fine with that. Zach LaVine is an incredible offensive player. He's one of the most efficient, like bulk scorers that we've seen in the league for a while.
40-90 last year.
Yeah. I mean, his numbers are incredible. And we've talked about this before. His shooting splits are wild. It's like 51.1% from the field and 44.6% from 3. But he had those exact same shooting splits for the season. He had those exact same shooting splits for 49 games in Chicago and the whatever games he played in Sacramento. Absolutely identical numbers across the board, which tells you that his shooting numbers aren't dependent on anything other than his ability to get open and make shots. So that's a good thing. Again, I haven't heard anything about Zach getting an extension, but I'm certainly not someone who I wouldn't hate an extension. It just depends on the dollar amount with Zach. And again, if you can get a guy who can fill up the buckets, score in bunches and potentially save a bunch of money, at least in next season, that would be tremendous for me if I'm the Kings.
Yeah, as you mentioned, like the logic obviously being turning down that player option and then extending for maybe more money over time, but less annually. The other way I think that's a little curious is if they were to trade Zach this year, another team could inherit the ability to do that and be curious about that potential as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's always possibilities there, for sure. I'm just not, like, again, it was like a dead issue early on, where like I very specifically heard, the Kings are not going to extend Zach LaVine, and there was no conversations at all about it. It was just like that was the end of the story. But who knows? He's a very, very, very talented player. He's not a great defender, although he's playing better defensively. And it's just like all the things that you need from him on the offensive end, he brings. He's a 3-level scorer. I also think he's grown up a lot from when he first came in the league. And so there's a lot of positives about him. He's just kind of a chill dude. I would kind of personality-wise, I'd put him in sort of the same boat that I put Rudy Gay. Like, everybody kind of likes him. He's kind of a chill dude. He's not a super noisy guy, but, a little bit of like a guy who sits in the middle of the locker room, not at one of the ends. He's one of the peacekeepers that you look for, and like a super efficient scorer. Let's see, what else do we have? Yeah. Ben, you bring up signing Westbrook and what that might do for the others. So you kind of have like two. You can't do both Schröder and Westbrook signings without either clearing up one of the guard logjam or having Keon extension done. I agree with you to a certain degree, and then and it kills Monk's trade value. That's the other thing. Like, somebody's going to lose here. First and foremost, like, Deon Carter just lost. There's no question. Yeah, Deon Carter, like, is going to have a difficult time getting on the floor at all. And like, there are a lot of people in his camp that are not happy at all with what just happened with Russell Westbrook coming in. But my main concern is Deon Carter probably wasn't going to play anyways. And so who is going to actually lose? And your candidates are Malik Monk. I know that Dennis Schröder isn't going to lose. Like, he might play 25 minutes a game versus 30, but, he's still going to play a considerable amount. Zach LaVine is going to play 34 minutes a night or whatever it is. So you got like 14 minutes there at the shooting guard position. So it's Malik, it's Keon, or it's Neek, or it's like two of those guys that are going to lose out here, especially once Keegan comes back. The first 15, 20 games of the season, it might look okay for all those guys because you're going to play a bunch of small ball and push guys over to the 4 just to steal minutes. But when you get to like the full roster, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for all those guys to eat. And so I wouldn't be surprised, number one, if someone keeps asking if there's going to be a Deon Carter trade before 2026. Well, before the summer of 2026. I would be shocked if Deon Carter was on the roster after February, one way or another. Like, realistically, unless the Kings just have a rash, even more injuries than they already have, and he finds his way on the court.
Yeah, Brenden? And like, attempting to figure out his value at this point feels impossible. Like, I really don't think that there's much there. To the people that are mentioning, hey, the Peyton Watson idea, like, he's not playing in Sacramento. He's probably not playing on Denver. I'd be shocked if Deon Carter is in Denver's rotation. He gets traded over there. Like, that's probably a position where it would need to be a GM that loved him in the draft process, or just one of these younger teams, a Utah, for example, that, like, they're running out Isaiah Collier and Colin Sexton. Like, do they want to see what a Deon Carter could give them, for example? So, yeah, I think that the cards are definitely lining up for Deon to end up in another situation, but I wouldn't get your hopes up on what the returning value may be. Like, it may be that, hey, we're trying to make a deal, and Deon Carter becomes the little bit of sweetener to put the deal over the top.
Yeah. And I would say too, like, if you're looking at a team like Denver, I would actually say that Malik Monk going to Denver would make a lot more sense than a Deon Carter. And I'm not sure that they can get that done, but they've got a few contracts that kind of stand out that you're looking at and like, could they actually figure something out here? And I'm not sure that that's going to be the case, but, like, again, they have Zeke Naji, who's under contract for a couple of years, that they've had a difficult time, like, getting him on the court. He had injury problems, and then, just like, he hasn't been able to play. So maybe there is a way that you could do something where you're packaging a couple of players up. But the problem the Kings have is they're at the luxury tax or over the luxury tax. So it's going to be very difficult for them to do anything anything substantial with a team like that. All right, let's get to we've answered some of your questions. There's plenty of questions in here. Sorry if we're not going to get to all of them today. It's a busy time of year. I know for me, I haven't slept much in the last week, and I'm going to guess the same as with Brenden.
Yep.
So Brenden, The one last topic I want to take on before we duck out and we get to final thoughts, let's just get to the business of basketball. I don't expect any sound effects from Brenden because I'm assuming Brendan's not in a room by himself.
I am not. So yeah, we're gonna hold off on the sound effects currently.
That's fine, Brenden. You don't have to embarrass yourself. The Doug Christie contract got reported on by Sam Amick this week, and a 2-year deal that pays him roughly $2 million annually, with the third year being a team option with a substantial raise in year 3. I was shocked. That's not at all what I thought his contract would look like. I don't know where that number is substantially lower than most starting caliber head coaches in the NBA. Like Jamal Mosley was making like $4 million a year a couple of years ago. Contracts for coaches have gone up. My first year covering the Sacramento Kings, Paul Westphal was the lowest paid coach in the league, and he made $1.75 million. That was 16 years ago. That the difference between 1.75 and 2 million is not even the cost of inflation over the last 16 years. Just like not even remotely close. Probably more like 4 million at a minimum. But what are your thoughts, Brenden, on not just the dollar amount, but the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Sam, I believe it was Amick's reporting, laid that out well in the article of, hey, this gives Doug something to prove. And I think this is a team full of people, players, coaches that have something to prove. Like, we know Doug's love for the city of Sacramento and his want to do it here. And I don't, as we mentioned, I don't know that he would have got another opportunity somewhere else. I would have been shocked if that was the case, specifically in the starting spot, maybe a more Bobby Jackson sort of role somewhere else when he was in Philadelphia. But I mean, I just think that Doug was not a highly sought after guy around the league. So it makes sense that the Kings were negotiating from a point of leverage a little bit in that regard. But it is curious for sure because it doesn't express the greatest commitment to Doug Christie in the current point, and gives more of a, hey, go and prove that you deserve to keep this spot. And I think that can go one of two ways, obviously, depending on how the year goes. But more than anything, I'd imagine that it's motivating for Doug, and to try to prove that he deserves to stay beyond that. Because when, the third year option, so does that, in your mind, you typically look at it as, hey, it's pretty much a 2-year deal?
Yeah, because like most deals, like Mike Brown balked at a 3-year deal with a 4th-year team option. He demanded a mutual option in year 4. Most coaches are getting 4 or 5-year deals in the NBA right now. And that last year sometimes can be a team option, but I haven't heard of a 2-year with a 3rd-year team option for a while. I have not heard that at all. Yeah. Anyway, it's just kind of tough. And I know a lot of people will say, well, there's not a lot of markets that we're going to hire Doug Christie because, he just, well, first of all, he's put in time. He's been in Sacramento 3.5 years as an assistant, or 4 years as an assistant, right? 3.5 and like a half a year as as the interim head coach. But there are coaches all around the league that weren't going to get a job somewhere else, like Darko up in Toronto. Like, he wasn't like a hot commodity coach that someone was going to go after. Again, Memphis went out and got their guy. And, first of all, most people in the league haven't heard of him. And he was making $2 million as an assistant. And that's where I'm kind of at. Like, there are plenty of coaches. Was JJ Redick going to get a coaching job somewhere else other than the Lakers? Was, again, like, just go around the league. There are plenty of guys that are like, it's a situational hire. So I'm hoping that we figure this out and like the Doug gets an actual opportunity, and not just an opportunity with a roster with that, is very, very unbalanced walking into a season.
He has a really tough hand. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really tough hand. And clearly the identity he's trying to push, and it feels like Scott Perry is pushing in that same direction, is, hey, we want a defensive oriented team that moves the ball well offensively. That's not what they have on this roster. So maybe the offensive side can cater to that a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it gets, again, understandable why Doug is trying to push them in that direction because it is their weakness, but it's just not the strength of this team. It is not a good hand. I can't, Eric Spoelstra is not saving the Sacramento Kings this year, even if you want to say he's the best coach or whoever it may be in the NBA. Like it's a very tough scenario for Doug to be in right now, but it's also simultaneously a good opportunity from the standpoint of just being in that head coach spot and learning all the things that come with that.
Yeah, and just to point this out too, like the roster, it was already unbalanced and like very oddly put together. And again, I'm not blaming Scott Perry. There's not a lot you can do. You have bloated contracts and all that stuff. But the two players that you couldn't lose are Domantas Sabonis and Keegan Murray. And it might be more like Keegan Murray and Domantas Sabonis. And you lost them both for at least the first 2 games of the season. And with Keegan, it's probably going to be between 15 and 20 games. All right. That's going to do it for us here on the Kings Beat podcast. Brenden, what do you got for final thoughts?
Yeah, I was in LA yesterday. I think it was a fun environment. Like, it was a pretty good crowd. They were into the game. It was a fun game in general. It's good for those guys to get late game reps. I think with Russ sitting on the bench, you saw him being a really vocal, just leader. It's what you would expect from Russell Westbrook. I will say I thought one of the funniest moments is when Maxime got to the free throw line on this little baby hook shot. I didn't have a great angle of if he did get fouled or not, but he does this like fist pump, right? And I look over at the bench, and Dennis Schröder did the same thing, kind of mocking him a little bit jokingly, and then Russ is cracking up laughing. I do think there's a chemistry with this group that this seems to be apparent pretty early on. This is also the time where it's easy for everybody to get along. We'll see as road bumps may occur throughout the course of the season, but so far, like, I mean, I guess I'm kind of echoing what Sean said. I don't necessarily think they're going to be good, but I think there is a little bit of an entertainment value and a fun mix of personalities on this team, if nothing less. So, yeah, certainly an up and down preseason, and take the results for what you will. But I do have a lot of curiosity about how this is going to play out because it feels like there's a decent amount of variance.
Yeah, I agree. I think nobody has an idea of what exactly is going to look like, what this Kings team is going to look like by the end of the season, or how they're going to play at all. And I'd also caution people: the first 19 games of the season are train wreck. Like, they play, I think, Denver and OKC 3 times each. Like, that's not good. Like, even the lighter games on their schedule are the second night of a back-to-back. So yeah, it's going to be a definite like tough start to the season. At least it looks like it, especially with injuries. And then the final 25 games of the season, this team has got a shot to make up a bunch of ground. So I don't think that they're going to hit some crazy panic button unless they really have to. We got just so we're clear, Johnny in the chat. You keep talking about waiving somebody. Terrence Davis was waived at like 12:05 last night, which is weird, in the middle of the night. I woke up to that email this morning. That's number one. Number two, when they signed Russell Westbrook, that put their roster at 15 regular players and 18 with the 3 two-way players. So they have no more roster spot. It is what it is. So, yep, their roster is set heading into the season unless they make some sort of trade that changes that. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. Thanks for tuning into this live show. If you don't mind, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, jump on board with the Kings Beat. Go to thekingsbeat.com so all of this gets sent right to your inbox and all that stuff. We'll be back. We'll probably have a show right before the start of the season, so look for another link either on Monday or Tuesday. And, get ready. It's about to, basketball's about to be real. So for Brenden Nunes from the Kings Pulse podcast, Sean Cunningham, who dipped out on us from KCRA 3. I'm James Ham, Kingside for ESPN 1320 in the Kings Beat. We'll see you very soon. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye.